So I know that I haven't exactly been in the Blackboard Avoidance in a while, and the reason is simply because I have accidentally broke some of the video lights and we need to go get new ones, but haven't yet, and also my camera that I normally film with stopped working, so I'm having to use this backup camera, in case you're wondering. So it's gonna be a little bit before they're back in the Blackboard Avoidance, but oh well. Enjoy North Carolina. You know, is it really such a good idea to tell all of YouTube where I live? Oh well, I'm in North Carolina, and that's all I'm saying. And man, my face looks distorted, doesn't it? And while I'm out here, what should I talk about? Oh yes, the famous tassels. Now for a lot of people, I bet they look really, bizarre. I once had somebody ask me why I have silly string hanging from my pants. Apparently it looks like silly string. I don't know. So this is kind of a Tzitzit 101 for people who don't quite know why we have these. In the Torah, God tells the children of Israel to affix tassels on the corners of the garments with the blue cord on each tassel, and you shall have these tassels to look upon so that you will not go after the lusts of your own heart and eyes. So it says to put them on the corners of our garments, but there's kind of a problem with that. Modern clothing doesn't have corners. Like, all the clothing we wear now is round. So what do? Well, some people just wear a talit on Shabbat. You know, the big old prayer shawl that you generally see Jewish people wear in the synagogue? The whole reason that that exists is for the tassels. It's literally a four-cornered garment that you wear. And the reason people wear talits is because they have four corners so they can carry the tzitzit. See, it gets affixed to a corner. That's fine and good, but some people want to fulfill the mitzvah every day and not just on Shabbat. So they wear under their clothes, or sometimes over them, a talit katan, a small talit. And this is pretty much just like a regular talit, except it's smaller and it has a head for your hole to fit through. But again, it's there so that you can have these on here. Okay, now enough about the talit. What is really important about the strings? Well, for this video, I'm gonna focus on the Ashkenazi tying. I know there's various different styles of tying, but I'm gonna focus on the typical Ashkenazi knots. Because the knots that are used are very important. The typical Ashkenazi tzitzit knots are 2 double knots, then 7 windings, 2 double knots, and then 8 windings, 2 double knots, and then 11 windings, and finally 2 double knots and 13 windings. Now in Hebrew, according to the sages, each letter can have a numerical equivalent. And because of that, we can calculate the value of words. So you take the number of double knots and twists, and you do some mathy stuff, and you get to the number 613, which is the number of commandments in the Torah. And because the Torah said that you would have these tzitzits to look upon, it reminds you to do the 613 commandments. Well, I mean, all the commandments that you can do at this time and age and gender that you are. And background, family background. And the Sephardic method of tying is very interesting also. Now this is still my Ashkenazi one, just so you know. But Sephardic tzitzit have the tying that in Gematria comes out to the 4 letters of God's name. Gotta be a little careful with those ones, because you're literally carrying the 4-letter name of God on you at all times. That was a bit bright, wasn't it? There we go. Now, if you're not sure what I'm talking about the 4-letter name of God that traditionally you don't say out of respect. But I'm getting off topic. So something interesting is that the Bible tells us to put a cord of blue on each tzitzit, yet the majority of people who wear them don't have that. What in the world, guys? Now, in a lot of Messianic circles, you will see people with a blue strand, but that's generally not a kosher strand. And let me explain what I'm talking about, because that's a little confusing. The word that we translate as blue in our English Bibles is the Hebrew word techelet, which is a very specific hue of blue. And it was made interestingly. Now, there's a very specific way to make techelet that is written down in the Talmud, but the problem is, we've been without the recipe for a while. The Talmud's not specifically, clear about what animal exactly it gets the dye from. Wait a second, couldn't it just be from any animal that gives blue dye? No, because that wouldn't be techelet. So this is a very interesting conundrum. What do? We want to wear the tzitzit, we want to follow the mitzvah, but we can't because we don't have the blue strand. So what do? Well, we kind of do what we can. Hence, the tzitzit are all white. But lately there has been a lot of research to figure out where exactly the blue dye comes from, because it's kind of important. And a lot of research has shown that it's probably coming from the Chilzone snail. This is a very interesting snail. There's a link in the description so you can learn more about this. Personally, I do believe that it is where we get the techelet from, and I used to have blue tzitzis that the techelet came from that snail, I don't anymore because the just were really messed up and it's kind of expensive. If you go to order some, you'll understand what I mean. But I mean, given the fact that they have to use 20 snails to get 4 blue strands, I understand why it costs so much. I just don't have them right now because it's really expensive. And if you know me, you know that I'm not exactly the most careful with my stuff. You should see the DSLR that I'm using to shoot right now has mud all in the casings because I've dropped it. So yeah. Oh my gosh. Now there are also some people that believe that the tequila comes from this certain squid. The evidence for that isn't as much as the snail, though. I do highly recommend, however, that you do read the articles that are in the doobly-doo. So if you want more information about the titi, I have a link down to the Wikipedia page and the doobly-doo, and so it's very interesting, and they have a couple different methods of tying. So, DFTBA! So if you're ever interested about like, how does Chris make these exactly? I have a special behind the scenes video that has like me preparing for this and setting up for this shoot and then editing this later. That's probably not going to be online for a day or two, simply because it's a lot and it takes a while to upload to YouTube because it's a long video, I'll bet. But yeah.